Welcome to Bob Cargill's Marketing Show, a ridiculously awesome podcast bursting with insightful commentaries and intriguing conversations on the topics and issues that are on the minds of marketers, advertisers, social media, and PR professionals today. Hey everybody, this is Bob Cargill from Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. I am here tonight at 29 Rustic Mediterranean again, and this is a ridiculously awesome restaurant in Sudbury, Massachusetts. My guest tonight, I am so excited to introduce you to Dave Matson. Dave and I met just within the last year or so. In his words, I can let you tell.
I used to play rugby.
Sure. I mean, I've stalked you for years, Bob. You know, that's what social media is for, to talk with people you wouldn't otherwise get to interact with. You can find and talk to the smartest people in marketing and any industry, really. So
you're too kind, Dave. But stalking folks in the internet world and the social media world is a good thing. So I was going to say, Dave told me, and you heard in his words from his mouth that he stalked me, and that's how we got together. We got together for coffee, and now look at where we are tonight, Dave. We're doing this podcast together, and it's a beautiful night. I think Hot August Night. I think of that song by Neil Diamond or the album years ago. It's not a hot August night. It's a beautiful August night, and the sun is still up, and it's 7:26 p.m. here in Sudbury. People will be listening to this a few days later, maybe a week later or so, but a great night and a great time to talk, Dave, about marketing, social media, and everything that you do, because it's all about you tonight, Dave.
I'm very uncomfortable with that, Bob, but we'll do it anyway. That's okay. Let's go for it.
So Dave, who admits that he stalked me, and I'm flattered because that makes me feel good. It means he wanted to meet me. I'm so happy we met because now I want to have him on my podcast, and he agreed, and he's already been given a Bob Cargill's Marketing Show coffee mug. I gave it away. You haven't even opened it up yet, but there you go.
Fantastic looking. Are these for sale on the website, Bob?
There's an idea. You gave me another revenue making idea. Sell my merch. Yes. When I get rich and when I get rich and famous, but when I get famous, then maybe I can get rich selling my coffee mugs. Dave, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background, because no one on my podcast, unless they already know you, has heard from you. Tell us what you do.
All right. Thanks, Bob. I've been doing for the last 10 years, I've had a lead gen company called Get Lawyer Leads, work in the intersection of SEO and content to deliver traffic and leads to my clients. I've also run a Boston SEO meetup for the last 10 years. It's been dormant lately, but for a long time we had some of the most famous marketing luminaries in Boston and the country who spoke at our events, and it was a big thing. So people may know me from that if they're listening to this. The Boston SEO meetup.
So, you say you stalked me, but you know what, Dave? We didn't meet until within the last year, but I knew of you. So I had seen you on social media. So I should have been stalking you too, because meaning there's a reciprocal interest here in that the more I learn about you, the more I realize I should have met you a long time ago, because we have traveled, I think, in similar spheres.
We have, yes.
Me, social media, the creative side, you of marketing, you SEO, more the left brain side.
Yeah, well, there you go. I can feel my personal brand lifting off right now, Bob. It's great.
Well, we need to do more of these podcasts together. Maybe, who knows, the sky's the limit, Dave, the things we might be able to do together, because I have a feeling a lot of what you do, I don't, and maybe vice versa. You say, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop you right there with the meetup that you talked about. You said luminaries. Like who spoke at your event?
When we first started in a coffee shop in Arlington, we had like Chris Brogan spoke. And
I love Chris.
He talked about when Twitter was new. He told us all about this great thing, why you should be on Twitter when nobody was on Twitter.
I love Chris.
So that was early. We've had in the SEO space, we've had Eric Engie speak multiple times. We've had Larry Kim, who founded WordStream, who's spoken with us.
And now Mobile Monkey.
Yes. Many. I'm bad at lists, but
you're remembering all the names. Yeah.
There are lots of famous people. I hate to leave anybody out, but many smart marketing folks, especially in the Boston area, have been kind enough to donate their time and present things to our group in the past, and it's been great.
So again,
I learned a lot from that.
I have to thank you for reaching out and contacting me about 6 months ago. We had coffee, and I thank you for that, because I should have known you. Again, I saw you on social media. I should have reached out to you first, because our paths have been, I think, parallel in this industry a little bit. And about Chris Brogan, I just want to say, I think the world of him. I mean, because I've read a bunch of his books, and I just had the honor of interviewing him for the AMA Boston podcast, and he's such a nice guy, and he knows so much about business in general, not just social media and marketing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's again, that's the great thing about social media, Twitter. That's how you and I finally connected.
Yeah,
but you can talk to the smartest people in the industry. You can talk to the people who you would never, you have to spend hundreds of dollars an hour to actually talk to them. But you can ping them and they'll answer your questions.
I tell people that all the time, Dave. I say, people ask me why social media, and especially why Twitter, because I think of all the channels, I think it's the most misunderstood, and I think in terms of uses one of the smaller percentages of the major channels. And I say, but that's the one of them all where you can reach out to people, and they'll usually get back to you, because there's this sense that we're all connected, and it's an open network, and we owe it to each other to respond, because that's the social media.
Definitely, couldn't agree more. Professional Twitter is a great place. Celebrity and political Twitter is a nightmare, but that's another subject.
It is another subject, but we could go in that direction. I love watching, say, a big event, say a political debate or the VMAs the other night, and watch what they call the back channel, and watch the tweets, and they're sometimes really funny, sometimes really mean. That's not a good thing, but sometimes really positive too. There's a lot of good things that comes out of social media and people doing what they do on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a great way to connect with people, both professionally, but also you get to see the real side of them. You get to, really smartest people in the world in marketing. Suddenly they're tweeting about The Bachelor, and I'm slightly baffled, but that's an insight into who they are, and it's when you can find things in common with people, it's even better to network that way. Like, I talk to people about music who are in the marketing industry, because I like weird music, and people who enjoy the same things I do. We talk about things like that.
So you do so I love obscure music as well, and I'm much older than you. I grew up when I was in my, let's say, heyday of partying back in the day, when I was a youngster, teenager, in early 20s. That was the new wave and punk era, and I went to a lot of nightclubs. I loved a lot of cool music. I'm getting around to what you just said. You said you like music. I saw you talk about a certain band somewhere whose name I don't even think I could repeat it.
No, you cannot. I just bought tickets to this band, and I made a joke about.
I mean, you could on other people's podcasts, but on mine, I'm not going to repeat it.
But yeah, I made a joke on Twitter that because nothing funnier than talking about a joke you made on Twitter on a podcast. But I made a joke that I was trying to make my Twitter feed professional, but also I'm a stand for this band called a band I can't name. But anyway, they're great. I'm going to see them in 2 weeks.
Well,
but I can't say the name.
You talk about influences. Talk about being an influencer. Dave has influenced me to look up this band that we're not naming, and because
I want to say the name now. I'll abbreviate it. Tropical F Storm.
Tropical F Storm.
Tropical F Storm. You can fill in the blank.
There you go.
But they're this weirdo blues band from Australia.
Wow.
They're coming all the way from Australia to play at this tiny club in Boston for $12, and they're brilliant, and I can't wait to go.
That is a great club.
I love them.
So everybody look up the Tropical F Storm. And you know where we're going with this?
Where are we going?
I keep things on track, man. We are talking about the human side, the transparency, the authentic side of social media, because what you said initially was, you see professionals and they're talking about bands that they like, and they watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or whatever you said, Paradise Island, one of those shows.
Yeah, I don't understand those things. But occasionally when those things are on, my Twitter feed lights up with these hashtags. So these shows are really popular with very smart people. I don't get it, but
in marketing, we need to know, on the creative side at least, all things about, as much as possible, about people. Pop culture is important. It's important to know the human side, and that's why I stress social media on my clients, because I can have a great email marketing campaign or a great search campaign, which I want to ask you about because that's what you specialize in and I don't. But with social media, you really get to understand your audience. You can look at these trending topics. You can look exactly at what people are saying, and you can see that they have a personality, not just the pulse. You can see that, when they're active and where they go. I mean, you can track people. You can stalk people, our word. I mean, and what's better than that? So if you want to, let's say you have a big ticket item and you only need to sell 5 of them a year, you could spend a lot of time on Twitter stalking that target audience and probably being quite successful if you're really good at social media.
Sure, and again, I keep saying the same thing, but you connect with people based on common interests and often way outside of your professional interests, but that makes you memorable and interesting, and that is how networking happens. You know this better than I do, Bob. I don't know jack about networking.
No.
I'm winging it all the time.
Well, part of life is winging it too. Between the two of us, we know a lot. I can tell our audience that. What I should mention to our audience, something I was remiss in not mentioning earlier, I said we're at 29 Rustic Mediterranean, my favorite restaurant here in Sudbury, but I didn't mention that we're also here because of the occasion of the Sudbury Social Tweet-Up, a group that Phil Hollis and I founded 8 years ago. Can't believe it. And I think this is like our 97th, and I'm serious about that, such event. And there's about 8 people here with us. They're all talking amongst themselves.
Yep. Out on the beautiful patio on a gorgeous August evening. It's fantastic out here.
Yeah. So if people are wondering what they're hearing, these are our friends. These are our people. But they're talking amongst themselves. They're not listening to us.
That's okay.
Something we said.
Don't listen to the podcast. We need the clicks anyway. So we rather listen to them later, not now.
You are so.
Let's see those
you
metrics.
are so smart.
You can't measure people sitting here. We got to measure everything, Bob.
So
how are we going to know if we're succeeding?
I agree totally. So what
they should not listen. They should listen later, and they should click on this podcast. I don't know, multiple times. Listen in the car. Listen at home.
I agree.
Let's get those numbers up for you, Bob.
Share it.
Because you're doing great work here.
Thank
People should know it.
You are the man, and I did not pay him, folks. I guess that coffee mug could be considered.
Yeah, it's a little shady, but
I should have given it to you afterwards, because now it looks like I am swaying you to say only good things about me while we're on air. Tell me about SEO. Not that I don't know anything about it. I know quite a bit about it, but it's not my expertise. I work alongside SEO people. I can teach the general fundamentals of SEO, but I'm not an SEO practitioner. I'm a social media guy, copywriter, marketer, podcaster, public speaker, etc., parent, step-parent, but not an SEO guy. So, Dave, if you could, in a nutshell, summarize, because I do teach a couple classes, and one of the questions to my students recently was just generally, what is SEO? How would you answer that, like in a minute or a few sentences?
Well, that is such a wide open question that it's hard to even know where to go with it. But search engine optimization is working on making your website the best answer to search questions and solving problems for people. That's how I think about it. What Google wants in their search results is searchers who are happy. They do not care about publishers. They don't care about your website. They care about users. So if you are making users happy, if you get the technical things right, they will reward you with good rankings, and you will get traffic if you deserve it.
So that said, playing devil's advocate, couldn't you say if somebody just has good content, period, without focusing on search, they're going to get good search engine rankings?
No.
I kind of knew the answer. I'll put it this way.
not.
I knew you would say that. So
You have to have good content, but that is necessary but not sufficient. You have to have, there's, depending on how competitive your vertical is, the technical aspects of what you need to do to make sure your site is fast and crawlable and has good user interface, makes users happy, and also has some credibility, has some expertise, authority, and trust. All these things are measured either actively or passively by Google, and they are what give you credibility. So you can't just write something great, because there's a lot of great stuff out there that nobody really reads, because there's so much content being produced every day.
I agree with you.
You need the whole package.
It's a content shock out there. I think that is a term, not a term I coined, but a term I have seen. I always say, a cacophony of noise out there, and it is very difficult to stand out among the clutter. I recommend to people they publish a lot of content, but make sure it's quality content, and go.
What is quality content, Bob? That's the question. I think of quality content. Quality content knows what it's trying to do. It's not just content that says something. It says something to someone. Who is your audience for this? I see so much content that I don't know what they want people to do with it. They just wrote something. It's kind of interesting. It's I guess it sort of shows some expertise, kind of. But why? Why is this more interesting than anybody else's content? What do you want people to do when they read this? What should they think about you?
So a lot of people. So my whole career, I've been on the creative side. I'm not a sales guy. I am a direct marketer, so I know results count. Results are the be-all, end-all when it comes to marketing, because marketing should lead to sales. However, because I'm creative by nature, sometimes, especially on my own, that's not first and foremost in my mind. So people ask me, why do I do this podcast? So I'm going to try to answer your question, because you said, what is good content? What do I want people to do with it? I'm hoping this is content on behalf of my personal brand. I'm hoping people like it enough that it triggers them to look me up on LinkedIn, connect with me, see that I'm not trying to sell myself either here, but see that I'm a public speaker or an experienced copywriter or a president of the AMA Boston.
Keep going.
I could keep going.
Bob is the man. He could go on all day, but it's only a half-hour podcast, right?
And I don't talk that much about myself. But
I'd rather talk about you than me, Bob.
Well, it's too bad. You're the guest.
All right, let's go. What else we got?
I'm the host. But no, I'm going to ask you if this is a good answer to what do I think good content is. I'm thinking good content leads the listener, viewer, reader to the next step in the sales cycle. And I will also say not everything should have to lead to a sale. It can build a brand. It can
brand building is absolutely valid goal for your content, no question. I mean, but my philosophy of everything is that my favorite question in the world is, what problem are you trying to solve? So what again, why are you writing this? What do you want the person to do? What are you identifying a pain point for someone and saying how your product or service is a solution? That can be perfectly great content. That could absolutely be legit. Does it communicate in a clear and coherent and entertaining way? Does it connect with people emotionally? This is stuff you know better than I do, Bob. But storytelling is incredibly important in good content, because just sort of dry facts might get you a search result, but someone's going to be like blah blah blah. Scan. Where's a headline? Where's some bullet points? I don't care. Move on. So it's got to be the whole package.
I agree, and I think the combination of someone like you and someone like me, we could move mountains in the marketing world, because I specialize in content, you specialize in SEO, right?
I think of myself sort of at the intersection. I'm not
the intersection.
The intersection of content and SEO, because they absolutely have to overlap. I'm not a technical SEO wizard, but I understand the basic principles of what you're trying to do, of crawlability of a good site. That stuff is part of the user experience and is absolutely vital. If your site's too slow, it's both bad for search engines and bad for users. If So you have to optimize your site for speed. It's absolutely critical, especially now. Google is looking at that all the time. If your site's slow, you won't get ranked, and even if you get users, they're going to be like, waiting for things to load on their phone. No one does that. They're moving on, so you can't have it.
And you have a website, correct? Can we talk about that a little? A company?
Yeah. I mean, what I have been doing is in the lead gen space. It's sort of I'm actually looking to move into something else, because it's kind of I'm in a middleman lead gen space that doesn't really make sense as a business model for a bunch of reasons that aren't that interesting, and I don't want to. So yeah, I'm looking to get out of what I'm doing and go more aggressively into the branding and storytelling side of SEO content.
Okay, so we won't talk about.
If you want to talk about lawyer stuff and criminal justice,
you've done a lot of that in that vertical.
And criminal justice itself is actually really. I mean, I love the issues of criminal justice, but the thing that I have learned is that like advocacy or issues that are really interesting for criminal justice are bad lead content, because someone who got arrested for shoplifting doesn't care that much about the principles of decarceration. All they want to do is not have a criminal record. They don't care about the interesting, the bigger topics that generates links and attention. So there's a lot of tension there. Again, that's the content side. Is your content there to get customers? Is your content there to get leads? And often that content is very different depending on your vertical. But this is a whole weird, complicated subject.
So ultimately, what you've done in the past, how will you parlay that into the next chapter of your career?
Well, that's a great question. I'm figuring that out. I mean, I've learned a ton about developing content that converts and that gets search results, and the SEO side of it, and the whole ball of wax that it takes to make a successful site that gets traffic. All the ins and outs of WordPress and title tags and crawl budgets, and there's a million aspects you have to do right to have a site that gets traffic and converts. So I know how to do those things.
Where do you see Dave Matson in 6 months, a year from now?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out my next step. Doing something at an agency or in-house level where I can help guide their content and SEO and strategy.
You and I could work together somehow, some way, either in terms of what I'm doing right now, or maybe at AMA Boston.
Are we starting a business, Bob? Is this stocking pay off?
Well,
did that month I spent in your bushes is that gonna get me somewhere?
Well, look, we're each. You asked me out for coffee. I give you a coffee mug. You're on my podcast. All of a sudden, I mean, there's kind of
it's all happening.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to reverse engineer this thing, it's going somewhere.
I hope so. It's fun to talk about this stuff, and I like to talk about social media too. I find I had an anecdote that maybe is interesting. We were going to talk about here that I wanted your feedback on this.
Yeah,
there's sort of two sides. There's two sides of what are you trying to accomplish in social media? What do you want engagement? Do you engage with people who engage with you, or do you not? Here's just a weird thing. Happened this week. I commented on a post of an agency that I won't name. Maybe they're listening, but I made some comments that were critical of what they said in their post, and they deleted my post on Facebook, which is absolutely fine. I'm not offended. It's their Facebook page. They're presenting themselves to the world, so you want to delete my post and curate it however you want, that's fine. But they obviously either didn't want to engage, or more likely, it's not about me. They just didn't have the bandwidth or didn't care to get that deep into it. But the question is, what do you think the responsibility of a person who has a Facebook page out there is to engage with people who engage with you? Maybe they thought it was being a jerk. It wasn't trying to be a jerk, but it's possible they thought that.
Thank you for. I'm gonna.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm chomping at the bit to address
well, then go. I want to hear what you think about this.
Besides asking you who the agency was, because I probably know who they were.
You probably do, because you know everybody.
But we won't talk about on this podcast who they are. You haven't told me who they are. But whoever they are, my feeling, strong feeling, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not working for them. If I was working for them, I would probably be answering to someone, and that someone might have a reason for why they asked for that post to be deleted. I tell my clients, and I have worked for clients where something critical might have been posted, and I caution them about, first of all, it's not a best practice to delete posts. That can backfire. If you were dealing with, and you're not this person, but if you were dealing with a hater, if you will, or an activist, or you risk really being at the mercy of not just maybe one person, but a whole movement of people who could, hypothetically speaking, take you down, on social media. You got to be careful. But a best practice, absolutely, is to let people ask questions, even criticize, as long as it's not inflammatory, as long as it's not threatening, as it's not so negative that it could cost you business. I say leave the comments up. Now, it is judgment. It's a judgment call. It's subjective. I don't know what you said. I don't know the agency. I don't know the conversation. A lot of companies, agencies, clients will take the easy road and delete the post. Ideally, they would be engaging and then taking it offline as quickly as possible. The other thing is maybe there's another trick that maybe they don't know about, and that's just to hide the comment on Facebook. You can hide a comment, and the person, in this case it would be you, still sees it, so it doesn't realize you've deleted it.
Yep.
And then thinks, okay, I've been heard. They just don't want to discuss it with me, but they hid it. They didn't delete it. If they delete it, they risk, frankly, pissing you off. And I'm not talking about you specifically, but whoever that person was. And that could make things even worse.
Yeah, and I think, this particular page, it actually did not have really any activity. They see their post, they have there's one person who likes it, and nobody really comments. So there's no engagement there. So I engage, and engagement metrics are... They help you in a million ways. They help you algorithmically. The more people engage, the more your page will show in the people's feeds, and even if I was slightly negative or critical, I was not mean, but I was like,
I'm sure
you're not practicing what you preach, is what I said. That's the gist of my post.
Well, here's the other thing.
But again, it's people do things for reasons. Here's another one of my.
I want to add one more.
Go.
Easily, because I've worked at many agencies. I've been doing social media as long as anybody, and I'd stand by that. Easily, someone who was inexperienced could have been behind the scenes on their social media page, because unfortunately, often social media is delegated to someone junior or inexperienced because they don't think it's that important. And so that person could have panicked, or again, the boss, who also might not have known, social media very well, said just delete it. I don't know the whole context, but worst case, if I was them, I would have deleted it if they felt it was inflammatory. I doubt it was, based on what you told me. Second worst is I would hide it. Next, I would engage and take it offline. And fourth, there's a chance for a conversation and to turn that critic into a customer.
Yeah, and I even messaged them privately saying, I saw you deleted my comment. No big deal. I just wanted to tell you about this, and I had a thought. So you can.
That's a great.
You can ignore me. You can ignore me.
Because I literally have a client, and I've had many clients over the years that have occasionally, every business has critics or people that are suggesting ways they could improve. And the whole reason people for social media is to listen to your customers, to listen to your audience, to listen to constituency, and then make yourselves even better. So if they're not listening and responding, they're not doing their job.
Yeah, having social media out there that isn't really engaging is, disappointing. It's a lost opportunity.
It's not social media.
Well, yeah, and if I was to take a wild guess, I would say they have a Facebook page just to have a Facebook page. They put some of their blog posts in there and nobody engages, but if clients look at it, it exists. So it's not impressive, but it's a thing.
They need to hire me, and
they do.
Yeah, that's not a plug for me, but they need to hire me or someone like me.
But I mean,
to give them some best practices.
Go ahead, my other broad wisdom, because I have so much wisdom, is that people always do things for a reason. Sometimes it's a bad reason or an inefficient reason, but especially for you and I, Bob, if we're talking with clients, why is this post there? Why did you organize this thing? Why did you write this? It doesn't work for marketing reasons, but maybe there's a business reason why you do it. Maybe there's a reason why you had to write this thing to make a stakeholder happy, and it has to be there even though it's crappy. You have to figure out what people are doing before you can sort of criticize it. I mean, you can criticize it, but I give everyone the benefit of the doubt all the time. Maybe too much, but people do things, and you need to, if you want to engage with them in good faith, you want to find out why before you say you're stupid.
Agreed, totally. Dave, I really appreciate you bringing all that up. Let me ask you a new topic. What big companies, brands, do you think are doing things right when it comes to social media marketing or advertising or just business in general? What companies would make your blue chip list?
Oh, that's really interesting. There's a particular ad campaign that I'm fascinated by on like 4 different levels. You've probably seen the ads for Ring.com, where they have these security cameras at your house, and you can basically set up your network to share your video feed with your neighbors to see if people are prowling around your neighborhood. So it almost seems like you're being a good neighbor by joining your security network. And
that's real stalking. That's stalking the stalker. But as someone who cares deeply about civil liberties and privacy issues, I find it actually really terrifying, because they're on the news about sharing it with the police without permission, and the surveillance state is everywhere. So I think it's a really good campaign, because it makes me feel like if I get Ring, then I'm being a good neighbor, because we're all looking out for each other, except that it's creepy fascism. Yeah. I think we said, or you said, we weren't going to get into politics. You meant in entertainment and politics, and I don't want to dip too deeply into politics. It's funny, though, how social media, I feel it can be used in so many good ways, and we're just scratching the surface. Yet, ironically, some of those good ways do infringe upon privacy issues and people's rights. And I'm torn, when you talk about examples like that, because I love the idea that we can know what other people are doing, for better or worse, because I think of how many problems could be solved if more, let's say, the bad guys shared where they are, their location, or they had webcams on them. And I'm getting extreme and maybe off the rails here, but people could have chips in the future. I mean, for all we know, 50 years, 100 years from now.
Yeah, the surveillance is everywhere, and it's only getting stronger. The facial recognition cameras everywhere. What are the implications of that for civil liberties and marketing? It's too huge to even understand where it's going, but it's out of control, and it's going somewhere.
Dave, if you were to give any new marketer some advice, what would you say to them in terms of entering right out of college? Let's say it's probably some folks fresh out of college starting new jobs this September, and what would you say to them in terms of advice or tips?
Just do stuff. Make a website, download WordPress, install it, play with plugins, figure out what you want to do, because the most things on the web are not really that hard. There's most basic problems, unless you're on a million web page site in a really competitive vertical, you can just do stuff and it'll kind of work. There's so much great advice out there. There's so many brilliant bloggers and podcasters. Anything you need to figure figure out, you can figure out. I was trying to solve a stupid WordPress password problem. I had to get into my PHP files, which I don't really know how to do, but I found a post, and it's like, okay, this isn't that hard. So if you just do things, you'll learn so much. Play with all the tools. Have a website, put Google Tag Manager on there, experiment with testing different kinds of conversions that go from your tag events to your analytics, and see what happens. You can make your own conversions. I have a conversion that I like to play with that's just click to text. You can have in Tag Manager. You can have if you get clients or text, you do HTTP SMS : phone number, and that becomes a link on your site, and you can set that as a search in your Tag Manager, so you know how many people are clicking on your number to text you. I mean, there's whatever you want to do, you can just do it. It's not that the stuff's not that hard. All the tools are out there. Many of them are free. Just go out there and put your stuff out there and see what happens.
And I'm so old. When I first looked for a job out of graduate school in the early 80s, I had an index cards and cut out newspaper ads and used an electric typewriter. Things were so simple back then. But you know what I'm proud of most is that I evolved with the times, meaning it's night and day compared to when I started out in business. You're probably somewhere in the middle in terms of, I'm guessing you, I don't know your age, but you're not so you're not anywhere near as old as I am, but you're not so young that you don't know about the days before the internet. But things have changed dramatically, and what you just said, your answer to my question.
And it changes so fast. But you
can do so much today on your own.
Yes,
there's no excuses.
That's true. There's no excuse not to experiment with your own website and just figure things out.
Listen, it's getting dark out here, and mosquitoes are starting to come out. I mean, it is still August here in Sudbury, Mass. It's August 29th, a beautiful night, but it's gotten dark. You might be able to hear. What do I hear? Is that called peeper frogs or crickets?
Those are crickets.
Crickets,
we got crickets out here.
Yeah, and mosquitoes out here, and dragonflies, and lights. It's a beautiful night. But I want to wind things down and do some socializing with our Sudbury Social Tweet Up friends.
Yeah, we got a great group here. We got some food and some beverages. I'm going to get myself another drink. It's such a beautiful night.
You deserve that after,
I do deserve that.
36 minutes and 9 seconds.
This is more than I've
counting.
talked all week. I'm like a total introvert. I never talk about stuff.
I tell people you get on my podcast and,
Bob will get you talking.
I won't make you cry like, what was that interviewer Barbara Walters. Everybody would cry when they were on her show. I don't know if I can make you cry. I don't want to make you cry.
You can't make me cry, Bob.
And we're not going to get personal and emotional like that. But I learned so much from talking to people, and especially tonight, Dave. So what I want to ask you in parting is how people can reach you if they want to look you up, if they want to do business with you. How can they reach Dave Matson from Maine to Massachusetts?
Sure.
He might not want you. He hesitated. No, I'm kidding.
Who's going to stalk me?
Plenty of people have to listen to this podcast. They are going to want to work with you, hire you, be friends with you.
Come be friends with me. Follow me on Twitter. I'm Dave Matson. Come to see Tropical F-Storm with me in a couple weeks in Alston. It's going to be a great show.
See, you are making me feel old. I go to Peter Frampton, and I love seeing him, and Peter Wolf, I love seeing him, and who did I see? I saw Santana recently. I'm seeing the classic rock guys, and you're going to...
Yeah, I like weirdo punk.
You're going to who? F-Storm or what?
Tropical F-Storm.
Tropical F-Storm.
They're from Australia.
Who I never heard of until tonight.
No one's ever heard of them.
You can tell you're young, Dave.
They got like 3,000 views on YouTube, but the videos are great.
I'm going to check them out. This has been Dave Matson. We did. I was thinking did we cover all your how people can reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Twitter. I want to talk to people on Twitter. I love Twitter. It's sort of a nightmare hellscape, but it's also great. I love to talk to people professionally. It's so interesting, and then I like to argue with idiots about politics. That's also a big waste of my time. But
yeah,
I do it anyway. But I do it anyway because everyone's got to waste time somewhere. So why not there?
Dave, thank you. You got a coffee mug for your time tonight.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
And
put the stuff on the website, Bob. Move some merch.
Yeah. Well, I got to build the brand, and I'm working on that. but you're going to help. The listens
Oh,
and
this is gonna
downloads.
go right to the top of your
Yeah, there you
downloads,
go.
Bob.
You're going to help me
Everyone's
break
here
new
to
barriers.
listen.
So this has been Bob Cargill with Dave Matson tonight. Bob Cargill's Marketing Show coming to you from 29 Rustic Mediterranean here in Sudbury. Beautiful August night. I'm going to let you people go, but I hope to see you on the receiving end of my next podcast. That is, you will be listening, I will be talking. We look forward to presenting the next Bob Cargill's Marketing Show soon. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you again soon.